and also do a little bit of readings, and then you write the information based on the readings, and finally you can come out with your hypothesis objectives and also the title of your research proposal. So that is the way of doing the things and the process for you to actually teach yourself to be a very good researcher in the future. That is what we always do, creating the platform for ourselves to work on it, and then later on we will get to know and we will have the knowledge and also the skills about doing research. So for this morning, I will share with you a little bit about methodology and materials, so materials and methods. And okay, of course, you need to do, you need to write the methodology of your research proposal in order for you to be familiar and complete your pathway of learning on how to be a researcher. So in methodology, we have two parts actually in methodology. One is the data collection and the other is the data analysis. Okay, so the data collection also will be divided into two. That is the experimental design, and the second part is the parameter measurements. So you design the experiment, and then you describe on how you measure the parameters. And by doing that, you will be able to write your thesis or your research report better. So here is the example of formats to report your methodology. And this also apply to your thesis and applicable also to your research proposal for scientific writing course. This is a very typical frame, what we call as a table of content of your research methodology. And of course, when you write your methodology of your research, you need to describe about the study location. This is very important for your readers actually later on, because others will read your research, and if we don't know where the research had been done, we are not so sure whether the research is compatible with our research or not. So that is the reason that we need to write the study location, or we need to describe the location where your research will be conducted. Okay. So we will describe, for example, the temperature, the weather condition, the weather temperature, and also the rainfall, and of course the GPS location of your research, and describe a little bit more, for example, whether it is on a farm, or it is just in a university compound, or it is somewhere within of the community. So you need to describe, so that then your readers can evaluate whether the general geographical condition or situations of your research is relatable to their own research. So we want to know, because when we do research, we have to compare also the finding of our research with previous research. And it is important for me to know whether the previous study has been done in the location comparable to the location or the geographical condition for my own research. So we need to be sure on that one, and that's the reason that we will always report And the reason also we report for this one is to be professional, to show to your readers that the research, okay, the research is or will be or is or was, okay, was real or is real, because there is a physical location of the research. I can always go back to that. I can always visit that area and verify that you have done the research. Okay, so this is a very important for you to describe. Then, of course, the second part of your methodology will be the experimental setup. And then in the experimental setup, you need to explain the experimental design. So experimental design is about explaining, okay? It is about explaining the treatments, the number of replicates, and also the arrangement of the treatment, okay? So you simply just describe that one, okay? What are the treatments, okay? Because you want to solve a problem. You want to solve a problem in the industry, and the problem may need some intervention. And this intervention is the one that we call as treatments. Sometimes your research may involve explorative research, for example, like survey. But even in survey also you have some sort like a particular series of questions that you want to ask the participants, and based on that series of questions, you will get the answer for your research questions. So in experimental design, simply explain the treatments, the number of replicates, and also the arrangement of the treatments over that replicates. So what I mean as arrangement is in your experimental design course at the moment, sure you have heard about random, okay, or block, or it may be embedded, okay, or some other kind of arrangements, okay. Random means the treatments will be applied to the, okay, to the replicates randomly, okay. Okay, so that is what we mean by uh, random design. And then if you say that you want to block it, means you want to eliminate certain unwanted factors, okay, that may affect your research. And we don't want that disturbance to affect your research, and that's why we make a block, so that then it is fair, where all replicates will have more or less the same condition. So that's the reason that we block it. Okay? So I hope that you understand your experimental design course, because that is important when you want to describe the experimental design of your research for your research proposal, either proposal for this course or proposal for your final year project number one. Then of course you need to describe the preparation, okay, in your research. So I put there land preparation because most of us will use plots and some other area in our pack. But of course also you don't need to explain about land preparation, but you will be describing about the preparation of your lab. Okay, so you need to explain that one. Okay, and then of course after that, then you need to explain about the planting or feeding trial if you are working with animals, and of course you need to explain also the plant maintenance during the experiments. Okay, so during the experiments, you need to maintain the items that you use in the experiments. So usually plants. Okay, for this program, you will be working with plants, and the reason that you need to experiment. So, for example, you need to explain how do you do the uh, watering. You need to explain how do you control the pests. You also need to mention how do you control the. Okay, we are not so confident that you maintain the experiment according to the standard procedure. We may also doubt the finding and the outcomes of your research. So it is very important for you to explain clearly how do you maintain the subject or the items in your research. Then of course after that you can also mention about soil sampling if you need to do that. Okay, if you need to do soil sampling, then you need to explain also how do you sample the soils. If you don't involve any soil things, for example, you are doing soil sculpture and you don't need to explain anything about soil sampling. Okay, so this is the thing that you need to explain in the experimental setup. So it is actually more or less to prepare your readers on what need to be done, okay, before you do the data collections. So once you set up your experiments and then you run it for sometimes, of course, then you need to collect the data. And that's why in this table of contents for your methodology, you have to mention about data collection. Okay? So simply, you need to explain how do you measure all those parameters. Parameters is a thing that you can measure in order for you to get a particular data, and from the data you can analyze them and to get the answer for your research questions. So of course in the data collection for plants it is very important to explain about the growth performance. Okay, so plant height, leaf area, and then so many other information. Also you need to explain about the yield. Okay, how do you measure the yield? Okay, and then, of course, you need to also measure the physical quality. For the example on the screen, I use grapes, okay? But you can always actually just replace it, physical quality of vegetable or physical quality of rock melon, okay? If you are working with rock melons, so that is the series of things that you need to mention uh, in your research. So other than physical quality uh, of the outputs of the plants, you need also to describe the chemical quality. Okay? And then you need also to assess, okay, incidents of predations, okay, like pests. What are the pests that are attacking it, and pests and also disease. So you need also you need to measure all those things, okay, in your data collections. So that is about data collections. So this, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the methodology, there will be two parts: data collection and data analysis. And then in the data analysis itself, there will be also two parts, that is the experimental setup and the measurement of parameters. Okay. Okay, so let's go. What you need to do, to prepare yourself, okay, to write this one. So number one, you need to determine these research requirements. Okay. Okay, so for sure that you did it for your bachelor degree, okay, to gain a broad competence in doing research. Okay, so you need to understand the requirements of the degree. Okay, otherwise you will do research that too difficult for you to complete within of the given time, and you may not able to finish your research. But at the same time, also by understanding the level of academic required in your research, you can do research that is okay qualify for that academic degree. So that is very important. Otherwise, also then you will do a research that actually is not sufficient to be called as a first degree or research, and you have a tendency to fail in your final year project, or tendency to fail even in this scientific writing course. And then number two, you need to identify the data to be collected. Okay, sometimes you may not really understand what to be collected, simply because you don't understand what is a parameter. Okay, so of course you need to go back to this one. So that's why when you write your methodology, it is important to start with this table of content first, so that then you are clear on what you want to write in your methodology. You cannot just simply start from a blank page and then you write and write. You need to start from this template, and then you fill in the information, the relevant information. Okay, so that is second step. You need to really be clear on what data to be collected. Okay? And then you need to define how the data will be organized. Sometimes you are very good in setting up your experiment, and you are also very good in measuring the data, but okay, you or maybe the person is not so good in organizing the data. And because of that mistake, the data are not well organized. When you put in your statistical software, then you will get a wrong information actually. The software may still run it, okay, may still process it, but the conclusion, okay, the outcome of your analysis is not representing the actual situation, simply because, okay, the data are not organized well. But in your experimental design, I do believe that the course instructor will, okay, tell you on how to arrange your data in spreadsheet. The common spreadsheet is Excel. So you need also to know how to put it in the Excel. All right, so for the next step, okay, you need to explain everything about it. Explain the details, what, where, when, why, and how. Include the parameter description as well. Okay, so about the language tenses, for research proposal, usually you use future tense, and for completed research, you need to use a past tense. Okay. So either you write in BM or BI, both languages actually have this kind of system. So you need to write it either future for research proposal or past tense when it is a completed research. So here is an example from actual thesis. So chapter 3, methodology. Okay, the students explain about the location and also the time frame for the research. And then after that, okay, the student explain about experimental design, or in BM mereka bentuk uji kaji. And then after that, explain about the system, the hydroponic system. And then also explain about the preparation of the nutrient solution. Okay, the student also explained about the media used for the planting, and then also the uh, planting technique, and then after that the parameters and analysis statistic. Okay, so he mentioned about parameter actually that is under data collection. Okay, so here he mentioned about things that being collected in the research. So actually, as I said, it is representing the growth, yield, and also some like what we call as development. Bilangan daun is development. There are actually three things that usually we measure in agronomical study. The first one is about growth, the second one is yield, and the other one is about development. Development means the numbers of leaves. It's always a relationship between growth, development, and yield. And then here is how you describe your parameters. Okay, you can get all these uh, uh, analytical chemistry. You can get it from there, so you just use it, and uh, of course you need to practice in the laboratory. We are user, and that's the reason that we take it from previous research. Unless your research is about creating a new methods, and in that case, you will explain how do you create the methods. Okay, and then later on, maybe in your study, you will verify the methods. But in most cases, for us, we are doing the research. Okay, as a user of existing methods, and that's the reason that we need to use standard methods. And in your explanation of parameter measurements, you need also to mention the sources of your methodology. So you need to cite the articles that you use as a reference for the parameter measurements. Of course, you need also to describe the data quality assurance in your study. And you need, when you explain how do you measure the parameters, you need also to mention about the precaution. Okay, for example, if you want to measure photosynthetic rates of plants, usually you need to do it between 8 to 10, because if you measure it after that, usually the performance will be different. But you can also measure it throughout the day, but you must not miss the morning time measurements. So you need to do that. Okay, so you need to explain in your research. Also, for example, if you do soil sampling collection, you are not going to do it during a rainy period. You are not going to do it also during dry period. So you need to do it within of the ideal a day, so that then you are not disturbing your own samples with other uh, materials. Because if you do the sampling during a rainy day, you may step on the sample yourself, and that will cause trampling and also increase the bulk density of the soil. So if you measure bulk density after that, of course it will be a little bit dense, because actually the reality is you have stepped on the soil during your during your sampling sample collections. So it's important for you to explain the situation. Okay? You need to decide the data storage. nobody really think about it. But when you lost your data, okay, because of your pen drive is corrupted or something happened in your laptop, only then you realize that you cannot finish your research. So you must always remember this one. Or maybe a virus attack your laptop or MacBook. So you lost your data. Only then and you realize that, okay, although this is simple, but it can determine whether you graduate or not graduate. Okay, if you lost your data, maybe for bachelor degree is yeah, scary because the research is shorter. But let's, for example, you do the research for your master degree and PhD. After 2 years or 3 years working in the field, collecting all the data, doing all the measurement, and you lost it overnight because of virus or because you lost the pen drive, or something happened with your MacBook or laptop. So your 2 years or 3 years of work, okay, is almost like nothing in that case. So what you can do actually is sometimes after you enter all the data in Excel, you email it to yourself. Okay? So at least you have a copy of that things in the email. So you just email it to yourself. The email will allow it actually. So you email it to yourself, so you will get that information in the email. Okay, this one also is a simple things. It's not really a critical thing for bachelor degree, I think, because most lecturer will give you a project that is not so confidential. But in any case that your supervisor say that, okay, your supervisor receive a research grant from a particular funder, and the data only okay, the data are only for them, for the funder, then maybe you need to treat your data confidentially in that case. But usually for bachelor, there is not so critical about this one. Okay? You can always share your data with your supervisor and maybe your friend, just for you all to work on it, on how to analyze it. Okay, then of course this one number 8, you decide to disseminate the data, and then if usually you write it for your thesis. Okay, so if you write it for your thesis, that means there is certain expectation, okay, for your thesis, number of pages and other things. But if you write it for a journal article, then also there will be certain expectation. You need to be compact, okay, a little bit shorter than the thesis. And for the research seriously and with a lot of quality work in your experiment, we can actually publish the data. And I did it for quite few students. Some of my students are very good actually, although they do it only for their bachelor degree, but they work very hard collecting for they collected a very good data. They designed the experiment also very well. Okay, and we did publish the paper, and this is important for your CB. Okay, it will be very impressive if you put in your CV that you have published something. Easier for you to get a job actually. Okay, number 9, you assign the roles and responsibility. So of course, in the WhatsApp just now I mentioned about you need to check something right at the beginning of the ITELS platform. Okay, over there you will find the guides on how to write a thesis, and of course there is responsibilities of supervisors and also students. So of course supervisors will only guide you, but you need to do all the job because you need to consider that you are learning on how to do it. Okay, so without practice there will be no way that you can master or you can know the subject that you are researching. So you need to also train yourself to have some sort of responsibilities. Okay, then number 10, of course, you need to prepare a realistic budget. Sponsor requirements for the research, academic requirements. Okay. So you need to also teach yourself on how to prepare this. This skill is very important. Actually, for everyone, actually. Not only for research purposes, but you need also to be very good in budgeting your own financial situation, okay, in order for you to be a successful person. And you can learn how to do the budgeting by doing a very realistic budget for your research. Then from there you start to know how actually you use, for example, 2,000 ringgit to carry out your research. And of course, for your bachelor degree, the supervisor will sort out the source of the funding. Sometimes some of us, we have research grants, so it will help you doing your research, okay, using the fund from our research grant. Some us, okay, we got also the some little funding from the faculty to buy the chemicals. And sometimes we have an existing chemicals and also existing devices to do it. Like for example, for my research, usually I have the devices and also the chemicals for the students to use. Okay, of course, it will need a little bit of your personal money, but not that much. But I also found out that some students they work very hard in their research and they use their own money because they want to invest also in their development. So this is a good way to see it. But for sure that we need to discuss. I mean, the supervisors and the student need to have some sort of discussion about funding for the research and also some other expenses, okay, related to the research. So that then you know how much do you need to spend from your personal money and how much do you expect from the supervisor and also from the faculty. So we just discuss it generally. Okay, this will actually ensure that we also get mature as a researcher. Okay, of course it will be good that everything is free, but in my observation so far throughout many years, free things is always not good because the receiver will never appreciate actually the results because everything is free. That is a very unfortunate in life actually. When people buy free things, they don't appreciate it. For me, when I receive free things, free gifts, I will appreciate it very much. That is where I got the okay for free. Okay, again, here is the example of format to report the methodology. I just re-mention at the end of this lecture so that then you can it is important for you to have the table of contents of your before you can expand it into like for example maybe 10-15 pages explaining everything so that somebody can repeat. Okay. So example, this is research proposal. You can go to ITALS and then you can download it and you read the example. And also the example of completed research thesis. Okay. It is also there. I use that example actually is I think it's 4 years ago or student batch 2021, but it's still considered to be quite good as an examples. Okay, so that's all for the first part of this lecture. So the next lecture will be about data analysis. Okay, so remember in the methodology you have data collection and data analysis. Okay, in the data collection itself, there will be also two parts. That is the experimental design and the measurement of parameters. Okay, in the data analysis, you need to explain the details on how it has to be executed. For sure, you know more about this one in your experimental design course. Okay, so similarly also I put this slide so that then you can see the sequence. Okay, now I put data analysis in red. Okay, because that is this lecture will be about the data analysis. So here is the examples on how you write the data analysis. Okay. So how do you do it? You have to mention it properly. And then for sure in your experimental design, the instructor will tell you about uh, how to check the assumptions for ANOVA. Okay, for ANOVA, for example, you need to comply the normality quality, also the independency, and also the homoscedasticity of the data. Okay, so you have to explain in the statistical analysis. Okay, so the component is actually in the statistical analysis, you have to mention about the factor. One way ANOVA is analyzing, okay, is when you want to analyze many means from a single factor. For example, you may only interested in fertilizer concentrations, okay, and then you apply the fertilizer on different kind of plants, okay, that will make the experiment a single factor, okay, because maybe one concentration but different plants. So now your factors is only plants variety. But if you apply the fertilizer at different concentrations, okay, on different plants, and that will become two-way ANOVA because you have two factors, okay, concentration of fertilizer and different kind of plants. But if you run your experiment by applying many different concentration of fertilizer, okay, on a single plants, and our experiment will become one-way ANOVA because there is only one factors, that is the concentration of fertilizer. So I hope that you can pick and understand this straight away. You know? So you need to be able to mention that one, and of course you need to also mention the the post hoc analysis. You need also to mention the what alpha that you use, okay, the level of confidence, and you need to also to explain the methods that you use in analyzing your data. Okay, the methods are based on, okay, based on somebody's recommendations. It is based on textbooks, or it is based on journals, or it is based on existing standard analytical procedure. So you need to mention all those things, okay, in your statistical data, so that then it's easier for me to understand as your readers, okay, as the readers of your writings. If you have used like ANOVA, you also use t-test, and you also use some chi-square maybe, you need to explain them separately. Different